There was a time when I thought that finding the perfect babysitter for my two rambunctious toddlers would be a Herculean task. I envisioned endless interviews, background checks, and a long list of qualifications, all while trying to find someone who could keep up with my kids' boundless energy. Little did I know that the answer was right under my nose, or rather, at my feet. Enter Max, our lovable golden retriever, whose gentle demeanor and playful spirit would turn out to be the unexpected solution to my babysitting woes. It all started one sunny afternoon when I had a particularly pressing deadline for work. My husband was out of town, and I was left to juggle a conference call and two children who were determined to turn the living room into a mini wrestling ring. As I paced back and forth, phone pressed to my ear, I noticed Max lying lazily on the carpet, his tail thumping softly against the floor. An idea struck me. What if I let him entertain the kids for a bit? I figured it couldn't hurt to let them engage with him while I finished my call. As soon as I mentioned Max, my kids' eyes lit up like they had just been told they could have ice cream for dinner. I quickly wrapped up my call and watched as they raced to the living room, their giggles echoing through the house. Max, ever the doting dog, perked up at the sound of their laughter. He trotted over, tail wagging like a flag in a gentle breeze, ready to embrace his new role as the best babysitter. The first hilarious moment came when my daughter, Lily, decided that Max needed a makeover. Armed with a headband adorned with sparkly flowers, she carefully placed it on his head. Max, oblivious to the fashion faux pas, stood there, his expression one of utter confusion, as if he were pondering the meaning of life. My son, Jake, found this transformation utterly hilarious and burst into a fit of giggles. In that moment, I realized that Max was not just a dog. He was a willing participant in their imaginative play. As the afternoon wore on, I watched from the kitchen as the trio engaged in a series of antics that would have made any babysitter jealous. Max became the star of a makeshift circus, where Jake would toss a ball and Max would leap into the air, catching it mid-flight. The kids cheered as if they were at a grand performance, and Max, reveling in the attention, took a bow after each successful catch. It was a sight to behold, a golden retriever performing tricks for a captivated audience of two. Then came the moment when the kids decided that Max needed to be part of their family. They brought out a small dollhouse, complete with miniature furniture, and began to set up a cozy living space for him. They placed a tiny chair in front of the dollhouse and invited Max to sit. Max, ever the good sport, plopped down next to the chair, looking utterly confused. As they insisted that he take a seat, I couldn't help but chuckle. The image of a dog trying to fit into a dollhouse family was too cute to resist. As the sun began to set, the atmosphere shifted to one of calm and tranquility. The kids were winding down, and Max, sensing the change, lay down on the rug, his head resting on his paws. It was then that Lily decided it was the perfect time for a story. She grabbed her favorite picture book and plopped down next to Max, who seemed to understand that he was now part of this bedtime ritual. With a dramatic flair, she began to read aloud, her little voice rising and falling with the rhythm of the narrative. Max listened intently, his big brown eyes fixed on her, as if he were absorbing every word. There was something heartwarming about the sight of my daughter reading to Max. It was as if he were her confidant, the one creature in the world who would never judge her attempts at storytelling. And when she reached the climax of the story, where the brave knight saves the day, Max let out a soft bark, as if to cheer her on. I couldn't help but feel a swell of pride. My dog had seamlessly stepped into the role of a nurturing figure, providing companionship and comfort in a way that no human could replicate. The next day, I decided to test the waters further. I had a few errands to run, and rather than calling in a babysitter, I left the kids in Max's capable paws once again. Armed with a few snacks and a promise to return soon, I headed out, feeling a mix of apprehension and excitement. Would Max be able to keep them entertained for an hour? When I returned, I was greeted by the most chaotic scene imaginable. Max was sprawled out on the living room floor, looking utterly defeated. The kids, however, were in high spirits. They had transformed the living room into a makeshift obstacle course, with cushions strewn about and toys scattered everywhere. It was a delightful mess, and as I surveyed the chaos, I couldn't help but laugh. "Max, what happened?" I asked, trying to stifle my giggles. Jake jumped in, animatedly recounting how Max had been the bravest dog in the world, leaping over cushions and dodging stuffed animals as if he were in an epic action movie. Lily chimed in, saying that Max had even helped them build a fort out of blankets. The sight of my dog, who was now covered in bits of fluff and crumbs, was both hilarious and heartwarming. In the days that followed, Max's reputation as the best babysitter only grew. He became the go-to companion for every playdate, the unofficial referee during squabbles, and the ultimate cuddle buddy during quiet moments. I often found myself marveling at how a simple dog could bring so much joy and laughter into our home. One particularly memorable afternoon, I walked into the living room to find Max and the kids engaged in a game of hide and seek. Lily had hidden behind the couch, and Jake was counting loudly, his voice echoing through the room. Max, sensing the excitement, decided to join in. He began to wander around, sniffing at corners and barking playfully, as if he were the one searching for Lily. When he finally found her, he pounced with glee, and they both rolled onto the floor in a heap of giggles and fur. It was moments like these that made me realize that Max was more than just a dog. He was a part of our family. He had a unique ability to connect with my children, to understand their moods and needs, and to bring out the best in them. Whether it was a silly game or a quiet moment of reading, he was always there, ready to lend an ear or a paw. As the seasons changed, so did our adventures with Max. He became the star of every family outing, whether it was a picnic in the park or a day at the beach. The kids would chase him through the grass, their laughter ringing out like music, while Max would bound ahead, tail wagging in pure joy. One day, we decided to take a family trip to the local pumpkin patch. The kids were excited, their eyes wide with wonder as they ran from pumpkin to pumpkin. Max, of course, was right there with them, sniffing at the pumpkins and wagging his tail. At one point, Jake picked up a small pumpkin and declared it a doggy pumpkin. With a little encouragement from me, he placed it on Max's head, and for a brief moment, Max became the most adorable pumpkin dog in the world. The kids erupted in laughter, and I couldn't resist snapping a photo of the moment. As the years went by, Max continued to be the best babysitter we could have ever hoped for. He was there for every scraped knee, every whispered secret, and every bedtime story. He taught my children about kindness, empathy, and the joy of simply being present. Now, as I look back on those early days, I realize that Max was more than just a babysitter. He was a teacher, a friend, and a source of endless laughter. In a world that often feels chaotic and overwhelming, he brought a sense of calm and joy that we all needed. And while I may have initially thought I needed a human babysitter, I learned that sometimes the best caregivers come with 4 paws and a wagging tail.